All right, so we're just going to go straight down the list with dermatomes and myotomes. And if that same nerve root level has a myotome test, we will include it within the same time frame. Starting with C2 is along the back of the head. It kind of like acts as a chin strap. So you would go over to your patient, feel along the back of his head, have him close his eyes, feel along the chin strap. C3 is kind of along the back of the neck here, loops around almost kind of just right below the chin strap. So we'd come over to our patient, feel along for C3, have him close his eyes, same old thing, just a little lower on the neck. Moving on to C4, it's going to be along the top of the shoulder here. It includes a little bit of the lower neck here. So you'd come over to your patient, maybe include a little bit of the lower neck, include the, I think it, yep, goes, what are we on, C4? I can't remember, oh no. Yes, we're on C4, sorry. All right, C4, a little bit of lower neck, along the top of the shoulder here. We'd kind of feel along this way too. All right, we're moving on to C5, and C5 does have a myotome here. So we'll start with the dermatome, just kind of along the back of the arm till you get about midpoint of, its back lateral portion of the arm till you get about midpoint of the forearm. Kind of shows the same thing on the other side. So if we walked over to our patient here, we'd kind of just have him go in anatomical position real quick. Hey, palms forward. And it'd be along this side here. C5 till you get about right here. And come along here too. And then for the myotome portion. So for myotome portion for C5, what we're going to be doing is abduction, testing the deltoid. So we would stabilize the scap. I don't have two hands here, but we'd stabilize here, and then apply pressure here, and then just have them abduct, thumb up in the air. Yep, and then just testing that right there. Okay, and then we'd apply resistance, the 3 out of 5 first. You know the drill. All right, and then go ahead and lay down supine. All right, palms facing towards me, and then we're just gonna help him walk out into abduction. All right. Now we're moving on to C6. It also has a myotome here. So on the back side, it's just the back radial portion of the hand. And then along here, it's just going to be along the front of the arm into the radial portion of the hand. So if we came over to our patient, where's my handy dandy pencil? We could feel along this front side here. Just make sure, asking if he feels anything, eyes closed. Then we can also test a little bit on the back of the hand here. And then for the myotome, MMT for C6 is wrist extension, testing primarily the carpi radialis longus and brevis. So if we come over to our patient here, wrist is going to be off the table. If I had 2 hands, I would stabilize here and then apply pressure right here. We would do 3 out of 5 first, and then go ahead and do resistance. And then for the 2 out of 5, he would put his hand in mid position, stabilize here, and then go ahead and extend for me, just like that. Yep. C7 also has a myotome region we'll get into, but for the dermatome, it's going to be along the back side here to the middle finger. And then on the front side, it is just this small portion right here. So if we walked over to our patient, on the front side, it's just going to be this small portion here that we'll test. And then on the back side, let me double check. We will be testing just kind of the midpoint of the forearm to the middle finger there. Then for the myotome, C7 myotome, he's going to have his elbow just like this. We're going to stabilize here and apply pressure at this aspect. So if I had 2 hands here, I would stabilize and then go ahead and push against me. Yep, and then this would also be the 3 out of 5 position. Just go ahead and do it, blah, blah, blah. And then for 2 out of 5, patient would be sitting on arm on a non-friction surface. He'd start in a flex position and then just go ahead and extend. You'd stabilize there if you need to, and boom. C8 on the back side is just going to be on this ulnar aspect of the wrist and hand. Same thing on the front side. So when you have C8, you'd go up to your patient and wait, I already forgot. There we go. Just kind of test along this back side here. All right, and you come to the front, test along this side right here. Okay, for the myotome. Myotome for C8 is going to be finger flexion. I'm going to include MCP, PIP, and DIP because I'm not really sure which one we exactly do. But this is a little bit different from what we learned in 130. Our 3 out of 5s we learned this way, but for Terry, it's going to be against gravity. So we're going to stabilize the proximal area depending on which one we're going to do. So if we're doing MCP, stabilize here. PIP, we would stabilize here. DIP, we would stabilize there. And then just apply our force based on which one we are doing. And that is your C8 myotome. So if I stabilized here, go ahead and be my extra hand for me. And we wanted to do MCP, go ahead and push against, okay? And then all gravity eliminated positions are going to be mid position of the hand. You're good. You're going to be mid position, and then we would stabilize based on which one we wanted to do, and apply. Well, 2 out of 5 no resistance. So T1 dermatome also has a myotome we'll show after. So we're just going to go on this inner portion of the forearm here. Along with the back side, it's the exact same. So if we walked over to our patient, we would test along here. We would test along here, and also along the back side, it'd be around the same area. And for the myotome, so for T1, our myotome testing will be finger abduction and adduction to the dorsal and palmar interossei. I'm going to pull up my notes just so I don't say this wrong. So if we have our patient sit down and on the table, our abduction is going to be prone, so palm down, and we're going to be testing, like whether we're testing this side, so we have them adduct as far as possible, apply resistance to this side. 2 out of 5s we didn't learn for this kind of thing, so I'm not going to include it. But the difference here is if we're testing the abductor digiti minimi for abduction, this is the one where we flip palm over and have them abduct the pinky. That's the key difference there. While we're in this position here, we are going to test the palmar interossei with adduction. So we'd kind of have them, it's hard to do with one hand here, but we'd have them abduct and then try to go into adduction. And I believe that is all the same no matter which one you're wanting to do, middle finger being midline. We're going to include T2 here because we're not entirely sure if it's going to be on the practical or not, but pretty self-explanatory. We're going to kind of follow along the scapula here, going down into the axillary region and medial portion of the upper arm. Same with the anterior view. We're just going to kind of follow along the sternum, go out this way into the arm. And if I take my pencil, it would just look something like this on the front side, kind of going along into the this aspect of the arm. And then let me double check for my backside. We're going to kind of follow along this region here, going into this medial aspect of the arm. I don't know if it would include the medial aspect of the torso here, but let me double check actually before we move on. It doesn't show a good view, so what I showed, I'm assuming we'd get full credit for. These next few dermatomes from T12 to L3, they're all going to have the same myotome that we will show at the end of showing all of these. So starting with T12, it's just kind of this lower abdominal region here, loops around to the back side, and it's like right along the waist. So if we have T12, it's just going to be along the waist here, kind of just along the waist, along that side. Oh, don't stab him with the pencil. All right, L1 on the back side, almost around the same region, just kind of go lower onto the lateral aspect of the hip here. And then we will also kind of have a U-shaped form along this anterior side. So let me bring this paper with me just in case. Actually, right here. L1 is just going to be a little bit lower along this side, kind of follow along the lateral aspect of the hip, and then it is going to cover most of this anterior region of the thigh on the superior aspect. Just kind of follow along there. Okay. L2, we're just starting a little bit lower, a little closer to the hip aspect. We're going to follow along this lateral side, and it's going to cover most of the anterior aspect of the upper thigh. So as long as we come from over here, start here, and then just kind of go down at a diagonal along this lateral aspect, stay kind of on the upper thigh, and should include most of this region here along this way. And I'll double check that. Yes, lateral aspect L2, anterior aspect L2. L3 on the back portion is going to be along this medial aspect that we won't really, if we start from the front, I say we could just get the whole dermatome region there. Just kind of starting to kind of just start along the lateral aspect of the knee and kind of work your way into medial aspect or lateral aspect of the I think I had that wrong. Yeah, start along the lateral aspect of the knee, okay, and then work your way medial to the lower medial portion of the thigh and lower calf. And if I look along the backside, yep, it's just kind of this whole medial section here, and along the patella, and a little bit of this lateral portion. All right, so for the myotome testing for T12 to L3, those dermatomes we just showed, it's going to be knee extension. So we're testing the quads. So we're going to stabilize the unaffected area here, have the patient hold on to the plinth, stabilize the proximal thigh, and then we would just kind of have, he'd be scooted back just a little bit like that, and then we'd apply resistance here and tell him to extend for 4s and 5s, also 3 as well, just no pressure added. And then for a 2, he is going to be sidelined with this leg on top. For a 2, we would start him in a flex position, kind of holding the leg here and then telling him to extend, and we're supporting the weight of the leg. Yep. T12, L3, myotome test. Okay, so L4, if we look at the back side, is, let the camera focus in. It's going to be this, Jesus, what's happening? There we go. All right, it's going to be the medial aspect of the calf here. And then it's going to run into it's going to stay along the medial aspect of the calf and just kind of, I guess, go along the heel. I wish it kind of showed nope, it doesn't really show. Just medial aspect of the calf, and I think we'll be good here. So going over to him and just testing along this region right here. Kind of test along the back side just a little bit. And just stay along that medial path. Let me double check, make sure one more time. Yes, okay. All right, moving on. So myotome testing for L4, it has 2. We're going to do ankle dorsiflexion and inversion. So with dorsiflexion, 3 out of 5. Yep, we're going to have him hold on to the plinth, have him stabilize his one that we're not testing, and then this one's going to be over my lap here, resting, and we would just kind of apply resistance here for 4s and 5s. 3 out of 5, we would just kind of do it. For a 2 out of 5, we would have his test leg on the bottom. So go ahead and roll sideline, kind of get this one out of the way. We're just going to support the ankle just to reduce friction, and then have him dorsiflex. And that's about it. Let me look over inversion real quick. Also for the L4, we got inversion testing, so we're going to have the test leg on the bottom, off the plinth, stabilize here, and apply resistance down for 4s and 5s. And then for a 2 out of 5, we would have him in supine. It's going to be supported, so back up just a little bit where your heel's on the, yep. And then we're just going to kind of have him invert, and then that would be a 2 out of 5. All right, moving on. If you can remember L4, you can remember L5, except it's just going to be on the lateral aspect of the calf now. It also follows along the a lot of the anterior portion, wraps around and covers the big toes 1 through 3, it looks like. So if we came over to our patient, Start along the lateral aspect here, just kind of right below the knee. Goes a little bit anterior, having us close his eyes like normal. And then we're testing toes 1 through 3. Back side, you can just kind of include it in with the test. It's just a little bit of this lateral portion here. Just staying along the lateral portion, and then you can do a little bit of the front once you get a little bit more distal on the lower leg, and then the toes. All right. So for L5 myotome testing, we didn't really learn this much, but it's extensor hallucis longus. We would probably just kind of stabilize the foot on here, and then have him extend his big toe, just like that. Doing it very well. Okay, and then we'd probably apply resistance at the big toe, just kind of pushing down while also stabilizing. Hard to do right here. But then we would have him side lie for 2 out of 5 position, maybe supported. So up on the plinth just a little bit. And then, I don't really know, but we're just going to have him extend his toe just like that. Gravity eliminated. All right, moving on. S1, we're going to be on the lateral aspect of the foot. And it's kind of along the backside, like ankle, heel region. So if we came over to our patient, we're just going to kind of test along this back side here, maybe even have him laid down for this one so he can get underneath the foot a little bit. But it would go along this lateral aspect underneath a little bit, just like that, all the way. And it would cover these digits 4 through 5. Along this lateral aspect, as well as a little bit underneath and back of the ankle. All right. There is 2 test positions for S1 plantar flexion. This will be the myotome testing. So we would have the ankle off, stabilizing here. Knee is going to be straight for the gastroc, and then applying the resistance here. And then we would also have it, I don't remember, do we have it bent in this position too, kind of, just like that? And then have them plantar flex just like this for the soleus. Resistance applied to the foot right here. Yep. And then for 2 out of 5s, we would have them side lie on this leg, just like this. We'd have the leg straight on the plinth, ankle on the plinth, ankle on the plinth, ankle on the plinth. Yeah, it would look like this for the soleus, knee bent, and he would plantar flex, knee straight for the gastroc like this, and he would plantar flex as well. There is another test position, if we remember the standing one. I can just run through those. So a 4 out of 5 is going to be 3 to 5 reps of just lifting straight for gastroc, bent for soleus. And then a 5 out of 5 will be anything over 6 reps. And then
even if it's like a high C, I'm fine with that.
3 out of 5 test leg from the floor, keep the leg off, is 3 out of 5 is 1 to 2 reps. 4 out of 5 is 3 to 5 reps. 5 out of 5 is anything above 6 reps. Okay, and that would be the last myotome included. That is all the myotomes and dermatomes. Real quick, just in case, I don't think she will. S3, S4, we see S3, just kind of inner thigh. S4, I don't think she'll do that, but that's all.